afternoon and welcome. My name is Michele Jutrisa and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up here in New South Wales, Australia. So thank you very much for joining me today. Please jump on, say hello, let us know where you're from because it's always great welcoming new people on here. We're a fairly chatty bunch, so jump on and enjoy and join in the conversation as we craft. So today I'm going to be playing with a new product. Now, I'm sorry I wasn't here last week because I was at a 3-day retreat, but on the Friday of last week, I received my Stampin' Up order, and I must admit, I've been a bit slack, and that's been sitting in a box all week. I have just had a very, very busy month this month, and this last week has been fairly hectic. So in opening my delivery this morning, I pulled out some new products. Now, these are new products that are online exclusives that will be available to order as of the beginning of July. So this is a bit of a sneak peek, and this is my first time playing with it. So let me just flip my camera down. Actually, what I might do is I'm going to bring it up this way because I tried to print this out this morning and my printer has run out of ink. So let me just show you from here. Okay, so this is our new online exclusive. As I said, this will be available in early July, and it is called Floral Charm. Okay, so it is a beautiful suite, and I will show you the products in a moment. So it has got a lovely designer series paper. And then if we go to the next slide, you can see there it comes with stamp set. And I just love those dies. Those dies are so intricate. I haven't even taken them out yet to have a look at them. All I've done is looked at the stamp set. So I can't wait to get in and play with that. It also has some lovely dots, faceted dots there in 3 colours. And they're in 2 sizes as well. So I'll show you those and also the braid that goes with it. So this is the new product for the online exclusives. As I said, will be available in July, so early July. So let me just flip that back to me and let me bring my desk view up so we can have a look at these products. So, as I said, this is called Floral Charm, and this is the designer series paper, and it is beautiful. I've been trying not to buy florals, but I just love them. And as you can see, I haven't even opened this yet. It's all very, very new. So let's open this up and have a bit of a look. So I'll just slice it across there. Get my fingers in there just to rip open that last bit of plastic. I will be removing this out of this plastic and popping it into another sleeve. But look at this gorgeous paper. Now, the colours in this are Berry Burst, Blackberry Bliss, Mossy Meadow, Night of Navy, Pretty Peacock, and Timid Tiger. But you have this particular design, which is the one I've decided, even though I haven't looked at all the others, I just fell in love with this one and I decided I'm going to play with this. Now, the background in this isn't a white. If I get a piece of white cardstock and put next to it, it's not a white. But you could put white with it. There's no reason why you couldn't. But today I'm going to be putting basic beige with it. Just sort of felt like I think it just lends itself nicely to those colours. So that's that side of it. The other side is the Pretty Peacock in that lovely design there. Let's have a look at the next one they've got in here. Now, this must be the Blackberry Bliss. Isn't that just so sweet? And I love it how they've trimmed it in sort of like the brown tonings. With, you know, that brown tonings, early espresso, but it's just got a little bit, I think probably a little bit of undercut toning of green in that. And then you've got that colour there now. I thought that was Blackberry Bliss. Maybe it's Berry Burst, actually. Yeah, because there is berry burst in this, so that might be more of a berry burst tone. I'll keep going. Let's see what else we've got. There's 2 of each sheet in each of these packs. Oh, now that's a pretty one. That's very reminiscent of another paper we had a long time ago. It had mushrooms and wood. And I love that combination. So you've got your mossy meadow. You look like you've got your night of navy, more into your peach tones or your terracotta. What is it? The the timid tiger, probably, and your Cajun craze sort of colourings in that one. Oh, and the other reverse side of that. Isn't that just beautiful? Wonderful backgrounds. Be great for scrapbooking as well. So I'm going to be really looking forward to that one. Let's see, what's the next one? So again, in that Timid Tiger, Cajun Craze, Blackberry Bliss, and the back of that is your Mossy Meadow. Then we have another one similar to our front page, not the same but similar, but in a different colourway. So again, the background is sort of picking up the hues of that Blackberry Bliss, Berry Burst colours with your Night of Navy and Pretty Peacock. Gorgeous. Very much like your traditional, but then your backside is not so much traditional, but very sort of very traditional rose type patterns. But here's one that's slightly more modern in the style of flower. Again, that Berry Burst and Blackberry Bliss and your Mossy Meadow and Pretty Peacock. So this one here, Blackberry Bliss, probably more in the centre of the flowers, but very much that Berry Burst. But this one here, nice mixture of the two. And the reverse of that one is definitely your Blackberry Bliss. So really, really pretty paper. As I said, this is the one I'm going to be playing with today. So I'm going to leave that one out and pop all of these away. But I can't wait to get in and play with some more of those and maybe even do a scrapbook layout. Whoops. Let me just pop that one aside down the bottom here. And let's have a look what else is in this suite. So we've got that. We've got the stamp set. So this is a red rubber cling stamp set. Beautiful, nice rose image here. And then the small single one. Some leaves and some beautiful sentiments. I love this font. It is just gorgeous. So thanks for being you. Happy birthday. Can't wait to see you again soon. Hey, and you made my day. So, you know, some very nice fonts there. And now I just got to try to find, I have got, here we go, the charming dies. Let's have a look at these. Now, this is what I've been really looking forward to seeing because I think there is going to be some really beautiful dies in here. I love fine, intricate dies. So look at this. So you've got an outline die here, which will cut out the stamped image. Then you have another outline, so that cuts out the larger outline. Then you've got the one that cuts out the smaller outline and then the leaves. So you can cut out those 3 images, but then you have all these other bits and pieces. So you've got some really lovely leaves, some leaves and stems. You've got like a standalone rose there in the middle, another standalone flower, and then this standalone piece here. Now that could be quite fun to play with. So some really nice bits and pieces there. So I'm going to pull out a couple of these because I am going to need that one. I also want some of these leaves. Now, I'm not quite sure exactly which ones I'm going to be using, but I will be needing that one and possibly this one here. So as I said before, jump on, say hello, let me know you're on. Later on, what I do is I'll take all these dies off this piece here and I will be popping them back into that bag there, and then I keep all my dies with my stamp set. So for the moment, I'm just going to pop that into there, or not. Maybe I'm just going to take that. I might just leave that all out and just pop that over here somewhere safe. There we go. Okay, so these are the pieces that I'm going to be playing with, and I have chosen, as I said before, to use Basic Beige. I'm going to be using Cloud Cover in my matte because I was looking at some of the colours in this paper and it really sort of picks up that, even though Cloud Cover wasn't one of the colours on the list, it does pick up that sort of Lost Lagoon, Cloud Cover, Mossy Meadow sort of look. So, and it's also got a little bit of like, that's like a almost a diluted pretty peacock. So I sort of grabbed the pretty peacock as well, and I have got, whoops, did I grab some mossy? No, I have grabbed a piece of Mossy Meadow, and I have got here, I thought I'd grab some Lost Lagoon, but I haven't. So I'm just going to throw a piece of Lost Lagoon in there. I might not need a piece that big. I'll pop that one there as well. And this is just more for die cutting, okay? This piece here is definitely going to be my matte. And then I have got this piece here, which we're going to cut down, and we're going to add some florals as well. Now, I've already pre-stamped my image using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because we're going to do some colouring using our blends. Hello, Margie. How are you? Great to have you on here. Okay, so I'm just going to pop all these dies to one side, and I'm going to pop my stamp set. Now, the reason why I've pre-stamped this, I wanted this to make sure it was fully dry. What I've got is a book here that I have started in the last 12 months or so, where I sort of plan out things that I'm going to be doing. So I've planned out my layout and I've planned out all my measurements, but I've also done a test colour here. So I found today I didn't let my Memento dry long enough and my lines have blurred a little bit. So I don't want that to happen again. So the colours in my blends that I'm going to be using is Petal Pink in the dark and the light, then the Cloud Cover in light, Mossy Meadow in light, and Lost Lagoon in light. And I'm going to be doing a mixture of different coloured leaves in combinations, just the same as what they've got something on here. So that's where my idea is going. So let me just pop this to one side. I will put my measurements and everything onto my blog, hopefully sometime over this weekend. But let's get started with this. So I've got my card base here. My card base, I've cut just half a sheet of A4 cardstock. It's going to be a 10-fold card because that's my favourite style of card, just for the fact it makes it easier for me to photograph. I've also got my, as I said before, my matte, which I'm doing in Cloud Cover, which is one of our new in colours, because I felt that sort of worked in really well. I didn't want to go too strong with using, say, the Pretty Peacock, which, you know, does work really well with that paper, but I did want to keep it sort of a little bit softer on the more muted tones. I sort of want more of a delicate type of card, but I also want to have a bit of that strength in the leaves as well. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to cut this piece here, and I'm just having a quick look at it and working out if there is a direction. when you're looking at fabric or for cardstock, you want to have a quick work out if there is a direction. So you find a particular flower, say for example, or leaf, say for example, this big one here, well that's probably a little bit harder to tell, but this one here just above it, it's in a direction. So you've got the center of the flower at the top and it goes that way. If you look for exactly the same flower again, it's all going that way. So there is a direction to the paper. Now, is there a direction that so if that's the center of your flower, you could go that way. Diagonal is probably where the flower is going up and down. But I think really, even though there is a direction, there's enough busyness on this, it really doesn't matter which way I cut it. So I could cut it with it going that way, which just means all these flowers are going there. The leaves and everything seem to be going at a slight diagonal. Or I could cut it with my flowers going that way. And I think I actually like it going that way. So that's the way I'm going to cut it. And I'm just going to cut this into a 10 centimetre strip, just for the fact that if I'm going to use this on a full card, I am going to cut this down further. It just means that 10 centimetre strip is the easier piece to work with. And I'm going to cut this into 6 inches, which is half a sheet. Okay, so my next cut that I'm going to make, I'm only wanting to have a little piece of floral down the side because I'm going to cut this. If we go back to my design here, whoops, let's just move that out of the road so I don't have a hole in my paper. I'm wanting to break up this a little bit in 2 pieces, this card front. So I've decided I'm going to the little thin piece here to be my floral and this wider piece here to be a piece of solid cardstock. So I've decided that this little floral piece here, the cardstock is going to come over the top. Now you'll see this will come together as we work along with making this. So I want, because I'm going to do a decorative edge on this edge here, I want this piece to overlap that. So this piece here, the cardstock, the solid cardstock, I want it to be finished around about 6 centimetres. So that means that this piece here, because my width of my card front is 9.7, I'd only have 3.7 left for this piece here. But because I want this to go over the top and I want this piece to go under, I'm going to cut this piece here, my designer series paper, 5 centimetres by 14.1 because my mat is 14.1. So I'm going to cut this at 14.1 to start with. And that is because I want to keep whatever could be left over at the bottom could be used to trim up the bottom of my card. So I'm going to keep that to one side for the moment. And I'm going to cut this at 5 centimetres. Now again, I'm going to look at this piece of paper and work out if I'm going to cut that there, where am I going to get the most pattern? So I can cut 5 centimetres in from that way, but 5 centimetres here, 3 is going to be there. I'm going to flip this around and I think I'm going to cut this at 5 centimetres across there. The reason for that is by the time my cardstock comes across, let me just grab a piece of cardstock here, comes across and overlaps that, I'm still going to have this floral piece showing. If I had have gone this way, by the time I'm overlapping, I've got a little bit of the dark colours, but I've only got a very small number of flowers and they're only quite tiny. So I sort of figure I'm getting a little bit more colour on that one. So you really need to tend to think about where you're going to be cutting your cardstock. So this piece is my piece for my card. So I'm just going to pop that one there. Then this piece here, I've already cut this at 14.1 because I'm going to have that tucked in underneath, but I want a decorative edge along the edge here. So I want this piece to be around about 6 centimetres. So I've actually already put a little notch or a little mark at 6 centimetres there and a little one there. Now I've gone through my dies and I've pulled out a die set I haven't used as yet. And this is the fancy border dies. I think this is on the online exclusives. And comes with all these. Now there is a stamp set that goes with this, but I didn't purchase the stamp set. But it comes with all these dies that will give you some lovely decorative edging along your cardstock, your cards. So I want this one here, which is a smaller one. We have had things similar to this in the past, and I'm going to grab my large, I need to grab that out because I want to cut this piece here. Use my big embossing machine. And I'm going to grab my cardstock, which I have placed my marks, and I'm also going to grab some Post-it note just so I can hold these in position. Now I'm going to work out which edge I want. I want the curve to go outwards, and I'm going to pop that just on that inside line. I'll show you in a moment. So there's my 6 centimetre mark. So this side is 6 centimetres. So I've got it top and bottom, and I'm going to line that up with the edge of my cardstock. I want to go on this side. The cutting part is right in the centre. I'd rather it be that little bit bigger, and that's why I've made this a little wider than 3.7, because I want that to sit underneath. So we're going to pop that onto there, and we're going to die cut this. And I just felt that this gives quite a nice little edge rather than just a straight cut. The other thing, of course, that you could do is you could even tear it. It would work quite well. So let's pop this away, because I think for most of my other die cutting I will be using a smaller machine. And we'll just peel this away. And as I said, that's the piece that I'll want to keep. So I'm just going to pop that to one side for the moment. So that's the piece that I want to keep, and I want that bit to go underneath. Now let's just hope I've got this all right. Otherwise we'll be doing some quick recutting. So there's our mat, and it's going to eventually go onto there. And then these two pieces are going to fit in there just like so. Probably could have even made that a little bit wider if I wanted to make it a little bit wider. I didn't want to go exactly into the middle. It's just off that centre a bit. But anyway, this is our first place, so we'll just keep going and see what we come up with. So the other thing I thought I might do is actually give this a little bit of texture. So I'm going through my embossing folders, and there's 2 folders that I've got. Now this one here is a discontinued one. This is part of the Basics 3D embossing folders. I like this one because it doesn't have a lot of texture to it. It's just all over. The other one was this one here, which is the Glass and Gardens embossing folder, which is another new one that you get with the, I can't think now what it's called. I haven't got the stamp set or papers in this one. It's the one with all the drinks and everything on it. And we could also use this one. And I think actually, because it's a little bit all over, does sort of fade out into the middle, but I think I can still use it, but I can definitely put this through my mini cut and emboss because this is a narrow one, and I'm just going to line that up in there, and I think, yes, that's the one I think I want to use because I do like that texture. It's something a little bit different, but again, it's not overly textured. It's not going to take away from the florals because I didn't want to use anything that was too dramatic because I want the papers and everything to be the main look. And on that, I'm going to grab working out. Okay, this is one of the mats. Let's see if this one will go through. Yep, this one should work. So I'm using mat 3 on this, or plate 3. Just going to close it up, pop that down there because I will be needing that again. And that's going to give that beautiful texture on there. So it's just a little bit of texture to add to this card. So let's pop all these together. So I've got my adhesive here. I'm going to pop my floral on first. Now I've only got 1.5 mil around the edge of this, so I don't need to leave too much of an edge. And then we're going to pop this one on top. With that cut edge going into the middle. So again, lining it up with the Designer Series paper. Just keeping that. So that's going to give us a look of that. And now I'm going to grab my card base, fold that in half. Because I cut this at half a sheet of A4 cardstock and then scored it. So this is cut at 10.5 by 29.9 and scored at 14.9 for my card base. And then that piece is going to go on top there. Lining all of this up. Might just see if I can straighten that edge there a bit. It's just that little bit out at the bottom. I'm just going to give that a little bit more of a fold that way. So there's that part there. Now, I have just realised I haven't cut a mat for the inside as yet. So let's grab a piece of cardstock there. Got one of these, which I think might be cut. Nope. Okay. Just checking all my little bits and pieces here to make sure I haven't cut one of these already, but I haven't. So let's take this piece here. Now this is going to be the mat from my card insert. So I'm going to cut it at 10 by 14.4. And then this is going to be the part that I can write on, which I'm going to cut 3 mils smaller, which is 3.7 or 9.7, I should say, sorry, and 14.1. Now let's have a look at this little strip that I've kept, and that should fit across there nicely, and I can just trim that down with my snips. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on this. I'm not taking it all the way to the end. Just to give this a little bit of a finished look on the inside. And I'm just going to snip that back to there. And that can go glued onto my mat piece. That can go on the inside of here. So that will be our card base all done. And just give that a good press down and make sure that is all adhering there. So there's our card base. And really, you can put a sentiment onto that, and it's all, it could almost be done. But we're going to keep going. So let me just grab that piece I've already stamped. So here's my image here that I've already stamped, and using my example here that I've already played with, the colours that I'm using, let me just grab some of these bits and pieces out of my road. Colours that I'm using, I have got Cloud Cover in the light, I have got Lost Lagoon in the light, and I have got Light Mossy Meadow. I have also got here the light and dark in Petal Pink. I have got the light in Peach Pie and the light in Cajun Craze. So they're the colours that I'm going to colour this in with. So I'm going to start off with my light Petal Pink, because I always like starting with my light colour. Now when I colour these, if I look on this here, my little example piece here, I've taken my light Petal Pink almost to the complete outside edge, but when it comes to my leaves, I've actually left a little bit at the tip of the basic beige, so I haven't taken it all the way to the edge. I'm leaving what would call a white space. And I'm also too, normally I would go, when I've coloured these, I would normally go back over it again in my lightest colour to blend them all out, but this time I decided not to. So basically I'm going to layer each one of these colours on and then leave it as is and let it dry. So I'm going to start with my Petal Pink, and I'm using the brush tip on this one. Okay, so I'm going to start with this little flower up the top up here, and I'm just using a section at a time, and I'm just laying down some colour. I'm not being overly fussy with this. I just really want to get some colour down. I'm only working on a small section at a time. So I've taken that almost to the edge, but I have left a little bit of white space, and I'm going to bring this one in and just take it in a little bit further and just laying some of that colour down. You really can't tell the difference with this one because it is such a big flower. And again, I'm just adding a bit, and I'm just taking it a bit further out. With the bigger flower, there'd be a bit more detail, but with this little flower here, I'm just adding a little bit of detail there and just really pouncing some of that colour and just letting it naturally blend, and then a little bit here. Now, I am noticing that even my colour, my black is bleeding a little bit now. I'm not quite sure why that is happening, because being Memento, it should be okay to work with the blends. But I'm just adding a little bit of colour with this one here. I don't mind this flower being a little bit darker. Again, I'm just adding some colour down. I'm not even flicking. I'm just using the tip just to add colour, and I'm not going all the way to the edges. Taking this one in, but not going as far out. And then again with the Cajun Craze, just sort of adding the shadowing in there, coming out from underneath those petals, and just letting that all blend. Now, my pens here are fairly juicy at the moment, so really that's all I'm doing is just getting that sort of effect. Oops, that's a little bit blurry, I'm sorry. Don't know. There we go. So let's go try now with the bigger one. So again, I'm starting with my lightest, which is my Petal Pink. Some people like to start with their dark first and then work out. I like to start with my light. I don't think there's either any right or wrong. It's really up to you. So there's my light Petal Pink. Now I'm going in my dark Petal Pink. Just taking that out a little bit further. Again, just doing that little bit of a pouncing. These colours will blend really well if you've got a lot of ink in your first layers. So, because it helps the colours to blend together. And I think that's why I like to use my lights to start with. But I'm just letting the inks blend themselves. And I'm just going to put a little bit in the middle, but not too much. And I'm just going to be a little bit careful how much of this I want to put down, because I really just want to pounce that in a little bit. Doing those outer petals first. And then I might just put a little into the middle, not much. So I'm just keeping it, working that in from my outside in. Now let's work on the outer petals, doing the same sort of thing. Again, I'm just going to layer this down, not worrying too much if I don't go all the way out to the outer edge. And then start working my next one. So it's Petal Pink in the light. Now I'm going Petal Pink in the dark and taking that out a little bit further, just so then those colours are blending in there. Now normally I would do a flicking motion, but I'm not really even worrying about that at the moment. Now I've got my light peach pie, And I'm going to do a little bit more of a flick here, because what I want to do is just bring that out that little bit more. And I'm just using the tip, and I'm just doing like a light tick type flick, because these petals are much bigger, so I've got a bit more room to do that with. And I'm not going out as far as previously. Trying to work this fairly quickly because the inks are blending nicely. And again, just a really light tick. Now, the reason why these colours could be bleeding a little bit is the fact that I'm not doing it on the basic white. I am using basic beige, so it's slightly different cardstock because it's got colour in it already. Whereas the basic white is going to be slightly different because it's not the same sort of, it's a smoother paper. And on these bigger leaves, I'm just going to come back in again with my peach pie and just take those colours out a little bit more on these outer ones, and just going with a tick over the top and just sort of blend those in a bit, so I'm not getting as much of a solid line around. Just got to be very careful when you're adding a lot of colour in. I'm just going to come back in now with the light petal pink, because it will push the colour out. I find the lighter colours will push the darker colours away, so I'm just being very careful there on how much I'm adding in. But I'm trying to get a similar sort of effect to those flowers there, but something a little bit brighter. Okay, now the leaves. I'm going to be using the cloud cover in all my leaves, but some leaves I'm going to be adding the Mossy Meadow in light, and some leaves I'm going to be adding the Lost Lagoon in light. So I'm going to start off with this little one over here, and I'm just going to add, I'm just doing a flick, and I'm just sort of taking that up almost to the top, but not quite. I'm just leaving a tip there, but I am doing a tick. So this one here, I'm going to add, this big one, I'm going to add the Lost Lagoon in the light, and I'm just again adding, just doing a tick and just adding more colour where I want that shading to be, and I'm going to come back in and blend it with my light one. But again, I'm not taking it all the way to the tip. And then this little one here, I'm just going to vary, and I might even just use the bullet tip on this one, and just again doing a little tick, just adding that little bit of colour in there, and then coming back in and blending that out with the light over the top. So it's just giving a little bit of leaves different tones, because your leaves will change colour depending on how old they are. But I'm not sort of, yeah. So, you know, you've got different leaves, different colours, but the age of the leaf can also change in colour as well. So again, I'm going to go back in with my cloud cover, with my brushed end, and again just add colour, and all I'm doing is just ticking it around. I'm only working 1 or 2 petals at a time. Just the fact that I want my ink to be wet, because that does help it with the blending. If you have too much done, it will tend to dry and your colours won't blend as well. do one of these in. I think I need a new Mossy Meadow blend. At the tip of my Mossy Meadow is getting a little bit furry. Just alternating a little bit whether I'm using Mossy Meadow or Lost Lagoon. Of course, if you wanted to, you could also come back into these ones here, which you've done the Lost Lagoon, and just put a little bit more of the Mossy Meadow in there. Just give it a little bit more cohesiveness to what's already there. That's sort of blending all those colours in. So we've just a few more left to do. Just adding a little bit more depth in around those bases. I'm just going to come back in with my cloud cover and just go over the tips of those. And there's that just very quickly completed. So now we're just going to cut that out. Got my 2 plate ones. I am going to add a bit of post-it note to this just to make sure that it stays on. Like there, we need a plate on there. Line all that up. Whoops, are you happy with it? So I've done that, so I'll pop that out of the road. Now this is where we're going to see if all this is going to work, because as I said, it's sort of like an idea that came to me and I hadn't played with anything to see how it was going to look. So hopefully, fingers crossed, so we can either have that going from that direction on there, or we can take it more in that direction. But anyway, let's cut some leaves and see how we go. So we've got these two dies, but let's work out what colours. So we've got, don't think I want anything that's going to be too strong. Even could cut some in. I'm even thinking of maybe cutting the leaves out in the basic beige rather than going for a colour. Now that I can see all that on there, I think if I go for a colour, it's going to be making all that fairly dark. And as I said before, I do want to keep this a little bit on the lighter side. So let's just see how we go with adding basic beige. In our leaves. Because, whoops, doesn't want to lift, does it? Okay, let me grab my take a pick tool here. That's better. Very gently lift that up. Isn't that pretty? It's so delicate. I think that's what drew me to this. And the other colour, actually, we could do some leaves, is in the cloud cover. So I've done one of each in that. Let's grab some cloud cover, which I've got a piece here, and let's see if that might need a bigger piece of that. And I'm just going to cut that roughly in half that way. And we'll work out which colour we'll use, and then we'll cut a few extra. Probably won't need that many extra. I've still yet to do a sentiment. Sometimes these dies are just a little bit thicker. So when they go through the machine, they just sort of get wedged into this a little bit more. So let's just pop these out. Hasn't quite lifted out of the die as yet. Just very gently ease that out. Pop all that over there for the moment. Okay, so let's work out, here's our dies, which colour we want to use. So I'm probably going to do my sentiment also in basic beige. That's actually quite nice. Take that one out. Actually like that with the both colours in there. I only need the one of each. So I don't want to overload it too much. And then, if I've got any more basic beige lying around, we need our sentiment. Let's pop that over to one side for the moment. And let's grab our stamp. Now, what could we use for a sentiment? Really don't want anything too big on there. We don't want anything that's going to take away. And happy birthday is very nice, but it is quite large. I'm thinking something quite small. Maybe thanks. You made my day. And I'm just going to grab a small block. And I'm even thinking maybe the pretty peacock. We'll have a look. Because I do want it to be slightly stronger in colour. And I've also got here the Stylish Shapes. Let's have a quick look, see what we've got. That would fit. Okay, I'm going to use that one and you could also fussy cut this out if you wanted to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my die on here. I've got a flag die here, but I've got my sentiments sort of more up one end. And I'm just going to pop on a couple of pieces of Post-it note just to hold that into place. So I've lined all that up. Just bring this in again. Pop that onto there. Now, if you're wishing to purchase any of these products, of course, you can do that through my online store, which you will find at michellejutrisa.stampinup.net. But as I said to you before, it won't be available until beginning of July. I think it's in the first week. It's usually around about somewhere between the 3rd and the 5th. I haven't actually looked up the date. pop those dies up there. So let's have a look at this sentiment on here. So I really just want to tuck that in, probably somewhere like that. Just so then it's just that peeking out like that. Okay, so that gives us a bit of an idea. So let's start gluing some of this down. So the first part I want to glue down is my sentiment. And I'm just going to glue it straight down there. I'm just putting a little bit of glue on there. Now, the other thing I didn't show you before was the, and that's going to go just about there, is the trim that goes with this. So I'm just waiting for that to dry, but this is the trim that's also in this sweet collection. It's not something you would tie a bow in. It's like jute that's been plaited, but you could very easily, if you wanted to, separate this and use the strands. And this is in the colours. What colour was it? Petal pink. So if you wanted to pop a little bit of this underneath your flowers or anything like that, I don't use a lot of ribbon, but that's something I would tend to play with because I can unravel some of that. And actually, I might even see. Excuse me. So I'm just sort of teasing this out a little bit, just seeing if I can get a strand of it, but you would have to, because it's all plaited and it's about 4, it's not like a 3 plait you would do in your hair, it's a 4 plait, so it's a lot flatter. So it'll take a little while to pull all that out. But if you cut a 20 to 30 centimetre piece, you could probably get enough out of that and have plenty left over that once you've done it once, you would have enough that you could use on other projects. So it just takes a little bit of time. To unravel all of this. It's not like something you can just pull through. There's one there, so let's just have a look. Take a glue dot. Pop one there. I'm going to grab another strand. Well, I'm just doing that into a double loop. Pop another one there. Okay, I'm going to add some dimensionals to this. Need a new pack by the looks of it. Hold on one second. Let me just grab another pack out. So I like to put my flowers down and then pop my other pieces underneath. So all I'm going to do is just grab a couple of dimensionals and I'm popping them more or less into the center of this, and then everything else can be slipped in underneath. So I want that. Whoops, just need to lift that. I need to. That's better. I want it sort of hugging that thanks for being you. And then these pieces here. Don't be afraid to cut these things down a little bit. So I'm just going to pop a bit of glue on the bottom of that one. Lift all that up and that can go in under there. This one's going to go on top. So I've popped the cloud cover one underneath the ribbon. Just giving that a little bit of a push down there. Again, I'm going to just take that off there and just repeat it down the bottom. I tend to like things that are symmetrical to some point, and I'm just going to go underneath again. And then this one here. It's going on top. Then this suite also came with some bling, which I have got hidden somewhere here on my desk. Hold on one second. I've just... This is what happens when you don't put things away as you go. Now that's a little bit unusual. Got the packaging there for it, but where have I put the dots? My dots have gone walkabout. Hold on one sec. Okay, the dots have fallen down somewhere, which I will add later on. Definitely don't have them there. I have to make sure they haven't been caught up in something, which can very well happen. Okay, I can't find them. Let's just have a look, see if I've got something else here that I can use. In the meantime, whoops, I just found them right in front of me. here we are. There they are. And I just want the pretty in pink ones, or petal pink, I should say, not pretty in pink, petal pink. That's an old colour now. So I'm just going to add a couple of these, even though that's not really, yeah, I might not need them actually because it's not really in there. The blue ones I think are too, the blue ones could look okay even though we've got no blue in that. Sort of has your blue tones in there. So I don't know. What do you think? Are they too dark? I don't think so, even though that colour's not in any of that. I think it still holds its colour. The only thing I may do is grab another dimensional. I'm just going to take the back off it. And just pop it right underneath there. Whoops, it came up. Just what I didn't want to do. See if I can get that off. Let's try that again. Pop that underneath there. So just an extra dimensional, just to, because I only put them into the middle. Just to hold all those down. There we go. So I hope you like that. The blue dots are probably a little bit, but it just gives that little bit of, like you know that they're there. So I've just got a large one and a small one there, and then a large one and two small ones down there. So you're still working in your odd number. So I hope you've liked that. So that's a new product. As I said before, it is called Floral Charm, and you can purchase that come July. And I'm really loving that paper. It is just so soft and muted, but still with these in the similar sort of colours but a bit brighter, it doesn't look too insipid. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope it gives you some ideas of what maybe you can do with this particular suite. Thank you very much for joining me today. Thanks, Margie, for jumping on. It's been great to have you here. Please leave a comment and let me know what you think. This will be up on my Facebook page as well as on my YouTube, and I will get it up onto my blog hopefully tomorrow. So take care, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next Friday, because now I'm back again. So back to next Friday at 1 o'clock, and we'll create something else with another new product maybe. So have a lovely weekend. Bye for now.